Now we need to move on to our next panel, but I will ask our speakers to try to answer as many questions as possible from the chat, because we do have several now that have come in. And I also encourage, please, everybody with raised hands to type your question in the chat to make sure it is answered. And so now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Raya Vernier from MedGem to move on and introduce the next panel that we have. Thank you, everybody. Raya, over to you.
Thank you, Jemana. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the continuation of the celebration of the International Day of Clean Energy. This is our first webinar on connecting, empowering, and changing with green hydrogen. So I am Raya Vernier. I'm the communication expert of MedGem Network. I'm honored to be the co-host with Jemana today. So just to remind you, this event is brought to you by Universal Women in Green Hydrogen with the participation of UNIDO, Hydrogen Europe, LCT Lebanon, Innovix Hydrogen Monaco. So let's move now to our second session, where we will explore how renewable energy resources like solar, wind farm from the backbone of green hydrogen production. And our speaker will discuss their country opportunities, challenges, policies, anything that will shape the region's sustainable energy ecosystem. So our first speaker is the Hadi Abu Musa. He's a senior energy engineer at the Lebanese Center for Energy Conservation, and he will share how Lebanon can leverage green hydrogen today. So Hadi, please take the stage.
Thank you, Raya. I hope you can hear me well. I'm sharing my screen. So thank you again. And I'm glad to be with you today in this enriching webinar. And glad to share this panel with Laila and Bandali and meet them digitally again. So as you mentioned, Raya, I'll be giving a brief overview on the Lebanese energy context. Then our status currently related to renewable energy and how we identified our potential in green hydrogen and its derivatives, and what are the skills and capabilities that are needed now, especially that our main audience is young talents, so it's important to highlight this point. So Lebanon, as you may know, is not a country that produces fossil fuels till now, so we highly depend on imports of different types of fossil fuels, which is essential for all our energy-related activities, whether it's related to electricity or thermal demand. And we can see that most of our thermal demand is in the industrial sector, which is a key point that I will be going back to it in the next slides. If we zoom in on the electricity sector itself, following the energy and financial crisis we witnessed a few years ago, I'm hearing myself. Okay, so following this crisis, we had a remarkably large reduction in electricity consumption. Around 30% of our electricity consumption was reduced due to many reasons. Of course, the removal of subsidies and subsidies on the energy products and the electricity tariffs, in addition to the energy crisis itself, encouraged and accelerated this kind of energy transition. As we can see, the renewable energy share in our electricity mix was around 6% a few years ago, but now it's more than 20%, which is a big and important step to reach our ambitious target of 30% of renewable energy share in our electricity consumption by 2030. So also I would like to highlight that the main transformation was, and the main increase in renewable energy share was for solar PV systems in addition to the existing hydropower plants. So as a renewable energy status, we develop regularly in Lebanon the National Renewable Energy Action Plan, which sets the target for the country in terms of renewable energy goals and technologies that we need to deploy in the country. Our target was developed, the 30% target was developed in 2020 in collaboration with IRENA within the remap of the renewable energy outlook. So this ambitious target is now a realistic target since we already reached more than 20% till now. And we are currently finalizing the updated version of the UNREAP to cover the following 5 years, so 2025, 2030, where our targets are, due to the recent developments, our targets will be much more ambitious, hopefully. So in these plans, we do a breakdown for these targets to identify the type of technologies we need. And most importantly, we rely on solar PV technology, both the decentralized and centralized types of these systems, in addition, of course, to the wind and hydro power plants. So as you can see in the picture, why we have major developments and why we have a major focus on solar PV, because our potential in solar energy is huge. For example, we have an annual energy yield that ranges between 1,500 and 1,900 kilowatt hour per kilowatt peak all over the country. So speaking of these major developments and this huge shift in our energy mix or electricity mix, we can clearly see in this graph that in the recent couple of years, we witnessed an addition of more than 870 megawatt peak of decentralized PV systems, whereas by end of 2020, we had less than 100 megawatt peak. So the recent additions also good to highlight that they are mostly formed of systems with battery storage. And this is on the decentralized level. As for the centralized or solar farms projects under power purchase agreements, we have an accelerating progress, and we are hopefully going to have the first solar farm built in 2025 in Lebanon. So just to mention the number, we now reached almost 1.1 gigawatt peak of solar PV systems in the country. So this, let's say, huge potential in renewable energy and mainly solar led us to identify or explore our potential in green hydrogen. And with the support and direct assistance of the MADGEM project, we were able to explore two main steps or two main areas that are essential for this kind of developments. First of all, the strengths and weaknesses in local manufacturing capabilities. Since we're speaking about clean tech, it was very important to know which components we can locally manufacture, how we can complement, how we can compete, how we can contribute on a regional level in achieving this new level of local manufacturing of new technologies related to components of electrolyzers, for example. In addition, we were able to explore the green hydrogen potential in the country, its derivatives in terms of production through our first national green hydrogen roadmap, which is going to be an integral part of the updated NREAP I spoke earlier about. So this preliminary roadmap, also I wanted to note that the NREAP that will be updated and hopefully soon finalized, it will be the next step is to make it endorsed by the Ministry of Energy and Water and the government of Lebanon in order to transform these plans into concrete actions. So the green hydrogen roadmap identified the needed additions in renewable energy resources that and the access to water resources to transform this green hydrogen potential into projects, and also not only the production potential, not only the resources needed, but also the consumption areas locally and hopefully at a later stage for export. So the main three areas of consumption are related to power generation. Since we mentioned we have this gap in electricity production and we have this transition already ongoing, it is one of the main areas to have electricity production from retrofitted combined cycle gas turbines and also from the fuel cells technology, and also use it as a heat source for the industrial sector to replace the fossil fuels needed to generate heat in the industrial processes. And last but not least, the green ammonia, which is a derivative of green hydrogen. It was identified also as a main area to be used as a fertilizer for the agricultural sector, which is a well-developed sector in the country. So what do we need in terms of skills and capabilities? And I believe this is a bit general, not only related to our country. So as you know, the green hydrogen value chain, it covers a wide segment of activities. On the first hand, we have the production, storage, distribution, and transportation, and also the end-use applications as, for example, heating, power generation, and chemical production, for example, in the industrial processes. So this wide segment of activities requires a wide segment or a wide spectrum of skills also. And they are not related to one specific field. So we can have engineering, management, specialists, and technicians, skills needed in different segments of these activities. And for example, to give a concrete example related to the engineering field, in terms of producing hydrogen, for example, we might need, excuse me, in terms of, for example, environmental engineers, we might need such skills in the production level only. But for example, the mechanical engineers, the gas engineers, they are a need in all segments of the value chain. So we have different skills needed in different segments. Some of them are needed in many segments. And moving to the capabilities needed, there are many, of course. It differs depending on the segment, but generally speaking, we have to be aware of the hydrogen properties, its behavior, and the hazards that might be created during the activities of production or transportation or etc. And consequently, the safety requirements when working around hydrogen, and of course, knowing the hydrogen-related regulations, standard, and codes, which is a very important step, and it is a must at the beginning of the conceptualization of any kind of green hydrogen project in order to maximize our benefits at a later stage from the products that we might be able to produce. And of course, understanding the scientific aspect of the value chain, such as the electrochemical reactions and hydrogen production processes. So to conclude, for Lebanon, it is a strategic benefit to develop the green hydrogen potential and transform it into concrete projects. Because, as we mentioned in the beginning, we're not a country that produces fossil fuels. So we're not only considering how to shift our energy mix and depend less on or reduce our emissions. So we are talking about securing electricity and securing energy that is currently not available. So this is also a major factor in considering how the financial aspect of fossil fuels compared to green hydrogen is analyzed. And also, still at the local level, it is a very important technology to decarbonize our industrial sector and create business opportunities by adapting to with the standards and certification requirements to export these products, whether it's green hydrogen itself or its derivatives, for example, to the EU, especially with the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, that it's a whole different topic, but it's very important to also be aware of it at the beginning of any project. And also at the regional level, adopting such technologies and such approaches will allow us to contribute in the diversification of energy sources at the regional level and to expedite the energy transition and the security of supply targets we have commonly. And regardless of the financial aspect, the infrastructure aspect that are still maybe not globally mature when it comes to green hydrogen, it is an opportunity. This is my last message for the young talents attending today. This is an opportunity. This is an advantage for us to benefit from this time and start learning, start preparing ourselves to be ready for this technology and for this major change in our energy, in the energy transition we have on a global level. So this is it, and I'm glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Reggie, for all these valuable insights and for sharing such opportunities for the Lebanese young talent. So now next, let's hear from Leila Edbouaishi. She's the Business Development Director from Innovit and Hydrogel in Morocco. And Leila will discuss unlocking Morocco's green hydrogen potential. So dear Leila, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me correctly? Do you see my screen? Yes, okay. So, morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Hadi, for the presentation about Lebanon. That was really interesting. So, my name is Leila Edbouaishi. I'm Business Development Director at Hydrogel, which is a business of Innovex and a subsidiary within the OCP group ecosystem. OCP is a Moroccan company that is a global leader in phosphate rock and fertilizer production. And I'm working on development of 2 major green ammonia projects on behalf of OCP Group. So maybe before to go more in detail about the project, I wanted to also give a quick overview about the green hydrogen value chain, and just to maybe explain to our talents why this is a very important molecule. So green hydrogen is produced through the water electrolysis of water that is split in hydrogen and oxygen. And so it can be used directly as a substitute of the current gray hydrogen that is used in the industry, but it can also power new application that will help decarbonize a lot of industries. And for instance, hydrogen can be used in the trucks, in buses. It can be used for heating and power generation. It can also be combined with CO2 and create e-fuel, such as the e-methanol that will be used as a maritime fuel. Actually, that is already starting to be used as a maritime fuel, or e-SAF that will be used as an aviation fuel. And so this is also very important to decarbonize some, as we call it, hard to abate sector that cannot be decarbonized with the electricity. And finally, it can be combined with the nitrogen to produce green ammonia. And so ammonia is currently one of the most important entrants in the fertilizer industry. But we also foresee many other usage for the ammonia in the future. One of them as well is to use it as a fuel for the shipping. But a bit later, starting from 2030, we need the technology to be ready and the regulation to be ready. And it's also going to be one of the most important hydrogen carrier, since ammonia can be cracked, and in order to retrieve the hydrogen back, so ammonia will be used to ship somehow the hydrogen. And maybe to give also an overview about the hydrogen market. So today, the hydrogen market is around 100 million ton, but it is going to grow fastly, and we expect it to reach 280 million ton by 2050. If the world follows the 1.5 Celsius climate target. And so according to our analysis, the market will grow by 3% per year until 2030. That will be mainly based on the replacement of the gray hydrogen current uses and some new small application. But it's really gonna take off with the adoption of new application and when we will have also access to more competitive green hydrogen. And we see in the right side that the hydrogen is gonna the green hydrogen is gonna become competitive with the blue and the gray starting from 2040. And that will lead to tremendous new usage of the hydrogen. For the ammonia market, today it currently stands at 240 million ton, and it's also expected to grow by 60% in 2035. It's going to reach about 325 million ton, and the growth will mainly be driven by the continued demand for the fertilizer, as this is one of the main entrants, as I mentioned before, and also the new emerging application that I mentioned, such as the maritime fuel and the hydrogen carrier. And we see also that blue and green ammonia will be dominant starting from 2040. In terms of geographies, we see that Europe will be one of the leading consumers of green hydrogen and its derivatives. And I think that's also is due or thanks to the ambitious policies that have been put in place with the Renewable Energy Directive and the regulation around the RFNBO that we've mentioned before, because that regulation are playing a key role in shaping the market, creating a strong demand, specifically in the industry of the transport and the common current industries that are using the hydrogen now. And so Europe will be producing hydrogen, but that won't be sufficient because the demand will be around 20 million tons by 2030. And so the region will be heavily also relying on imports from countries, other countries in the region that have maybe also more favorable conditions for renewable. And so Morocco will be playing an important role in exporting the molecules as well to Europe. So why Morocco will be a global leader in green hydrogen? We have the chance to have abundant solar and wind resources, and that will help us to produce very competitive green hydrogen and green ammonia. We're targeting 1 to 1.5 LCOH by 2050. Dollars, sorry, per kilogram by 2050. We are very close to Europe, which make it our natural market, and which is also a key advantage for us that will help us reduce the cost of transportation and the carbon footprint that will be associated with the shipping. So we will be lending some very competitive green molecule with low carbon intensity or footprint to Europe. We have the chance to have OCP, as I mentioned before, which is one of the world's largest importers of green ammonia in the world, and that is driving development of large-scale green ammonia production in Morocco. So OCP is launching a program to reach 3 million tons of green ammonia by 2032 that will help to decarbonize its whole value chain. We have at Morocco favorable business environments and strong framework for collaboration between Morocco and Europe. So that makes it easier for us to form partnerships, to attract investment in the from foreign investment. And finally, as mentioned before by Frank, Morocco has developed a framework also to encourage the investment of green hydrogen and derivative, which is called the Offre Maroc, and that help accelerate the development of new projects in the countries. So here just a small view to show how we have the chance to have both solar and wind in Morocco with very important capacity factors. And what is very interesting is that we have combined capacity for solar and wind in the same localization, same region, especially in the south of Morocco, which is very important for the production of green hydrogen because it creates this complementarity and enable us to have very impressive load factors. So hydrogen, maybe I wanted to also give an overview about hydrogen. It's, as I mentioned before, a business of Innovex, which is a subsidiary of University Mohammed VI Polytechnic and part of OCP Group ecosystem. And so our objective at Hydrogel is to develop a pioneering green hydrogen and ammonia program that will be serving OCP decarbonation, but will also help us to serve our other markets, as I mentioned, for instance, in Europe. And so one of our goals is to produce green molecules that are competitive, to make that are sustainable and affordable. We want to build a Moroccan industrial leader and establish Morocco as a global leader in green energy, which will help the development of the green hydrogen industry globally. We want to deploy large-scale P2X or power-to-X plants, which will help us to lower the costs and accelerate the adoption of these new technologies. And finally, we want to create an important ecosystem in Morocco so that Morocco becomes a hub for green energy, and that will help us not only supporting local suppliers, but also generating new jobs. And that will be possible mainly by also building some strong partnerships with our suppliers and partners along the value chain. And so Hydrogel is currently developing two main projects. So the first project is aiming at producing 100 KT of green ammonia by 2026 at Jorf Lasfar, which is in the vicinity of OCP fertilizer plant. And a second one with an objective to produce 1 million ton by 2027 in Tarfaya, which is in the south of Morocco. And so The first project, these are two different projects with two different objectives. The first project is really a key part of how we are de-risking our entire green ammonia program. We are considering it as a sandbox where we are testing both mature, proven technologies, but also emerging ones that are very promising for the future. And so we want to use that project to demonstrate these technologies at scale, to learn about their performance, their reliability, and their integration. And it will help us to also apply all the learnings from that project to the Tarfaya projects and the following ones. Tarfaya, which is in the south of Morocco, is a multi-gigawatt scale project. It's addressing the whole value chain from the desalination to the hydrogen and ammonia production, and also with all the required infrastructure around the project. For instance, we are building the port that needs to be built to export the molecules. And so the large size of this project is helping us to achieve important economy of scale. And so that will help us to drive down the production costs and at the end of the day, enable us to offer the ammonia at the lowest possible price. And so it is there to serve OCP needs, but also to export some volumes to Europe in order to help to achieve the decarbonization there. And so we are making it also fully RFNBO compliant so that we are able to export to Europe. And so, as I mentioned before, we need to develop ecosystems around these projects. And so what we are currently doing is looking at also developing local manufacturing for key equipment in the value chain, such as the electrolyzers, the wind turbine. We are looking in the future also at expanding downstream in the value chain in order to produce other molecules than ammonia. We could be thinking about synthetic fuel such as e-methanol or DRI. And the ambition is to help creating a hydrogen valley, as we call it, in the south of Morocco. And as Hadi mentioned, one of the key elements that contributes to the success is the skilled and well-trained talent in hydrogen fields. And so we are fortunate to build on Morocco's well-established renewable energy industry that has been growing now over a decade. And so we have significant talents that are in the country that will help us to start and to kick off those projects. But we are also heavily investing in the development of skills for the hydrogen industry. And for that, we are also heavily relying on the efforts that can be deployed within our ecosystem. And so the University Mohammed VI Polytechnic will play a central role in training the talents that we need for these projects. I will be happy to answer also any question you have during the chat. Thank you very much for having me and have the great conversation.
Thank you very much, Laila, for highlighting Morocco's regional leadership in this sector. And exactly, we had 2 questions from Moroccan participants you can address directly on the chat, and then also whether you or Frank can answer directly. One from someone we all know is Bouchra Zoubash, is the member of the winning team of the first Green Hydrogen Morocco edition. And the second is from our colleague Songdel Zouti. So please check the Q&A session. And finally, we are pleased to welcome Bandali El Issa. He's a junior advisor at GIZ. and Medjam Network. He's my colleague. So Bandari will share Jordan's perspective on renewable energy and green inversion. So Bandari, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Raya. Thank you also to the co-panelists Hadi and Layla. It was very interesting to hear the insights and updates from Lebanon and Morocco. Good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Bandel Isa. I'm glad to join the panel and provide a perspective as well from Jordan on green hydrogen and Power2X and its renewable energy drive. I will be sharing my screen. So to provide a context behind Jordan's renewable energy drive, basically Jordan, like Lebanon, is heavily reliant on importing energy for its energy needs, particularly fossil fuels, or it used to be at least a decade ago. In 2014, for example, Jordan used to import 97% of its energy and only used to produce 1% of its energy from renewable sources. Fast forward a decade later, today Jordan produces around 29 of its electricity from renewable sources. And this was an opportunity that was captured due to the risks of this dependency. For example, the price fluctuations in international markets, they posed a risk to the economy, and also supply disruptions on a regional level also had a very large risk. And accordingly, this, let's say, success story has transformed the energy sector in Jordan. And to give you, to help visualize Jordan's success in the renewable energy sector, as we can see here, this is from the Arab Future Energy Index 2023 report by RECRI. Jordan's renewable energy share in installed capacity, excluding hydropower, is the largest among Arab countries at 32.7%. And all of this work was done in the past decade. Accordingly, this success in the renewable energy sector can be harnessed for the green hydrogen and Power2X technologies. So as has been mentioned multiple times before, green hydrogen is simply produced by electrolyzing water with renewable energy, and the produced gas can be stored or transformed into other chemicals. As we can see here, for example, it could be combined with nitrogen to produce ammonia. It could be combined with carbon to produce methanol or other type of e-fuels. And there are so many applications for all these derivatives. For example, we can have it as a fuel for industrial heat, whether as ammonia or green hydrogen, particularly in the steel and cement industries. And also it could be used as fuel for the transportation sector, whether it's maritime transportation, even public transportation buses, for example. The second application that's also relevant to Jordan is these renewable fuels being used as feedstock for fertilizers and chemicals industries. And this is particularly important for Jordan. The country, one of the largest exports of the country is fertilizers. It's almost a fifth of its exports. And it's an important economic sector in the country. And not only this will help improve environmental sustainability, because currently it relies on importing gray ammonia for the production of fertilizers, but it also will enhance competitiveness of Jordanian markets on the international arena. So a lot of regions around the world are introducing carbon policies, including the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, such as in Europe. And this will be expanded in the future, likely to other regions. So using these green technologies in the production of fertilizers shows its relevancy, urgency, and importance. Also, the third application is generating electricity by substituting natural gas or even injecting mix of the two. Of course, this usually would happen after retrofitting the infrastructure, whether it's the power plants, the gas pipelines, and port infrastructure. And also a fourth important application, as my colleague Frank has mentioned, energy as an energy storage method, whether it's in a strategic national reserve, for example, or other forms of energy storage. It has many benefits, including the matching supply and demand in the grid. This will enhance grid stability as well as allow for the integration of further renewables into the national grid. And to cite some benefits that are specific to these applications, as mentioned, this will improve environmental sustainability when used in industrial heat. In feedstock, this will enhance competitiveness of the products in international markets. As an energy source, it will reduce dependency on natural gas imports, and in energy storage to match supply and demand. And also, when we look at a higher level, on a national level, this market will have numerous benefits. It will contribute to energy goals, making the country's energy supply more sustainable, more affordable, and internally or independent, let's say. And also, it's important to note that green hydrogen is a wide sector, so the entire value chain will inevitably promote industrialization, innovation, scientific research in universities, and necessarily it will also drive economic growth and generate jobs. Relying on nationally produced fuels will enhance the trade balance, for example. It will enhance also economic, energy, and food security. Food security, as mentioned, when we connect this to the fertilizers industry. However, there's an important, one of the main challenges that Jordan faces in this sector is that Jordan is one of the world's most water scarce countries. And this poses a challenge to green hydrogen projects because, as you well know, they use hydrogen. However, the amount of used hydrogen won't be as much as is expected, and also there are several solutions that can be put forward to address this challenge, including water desalination, wastewater treatment, and several other ideas. To mention one, for example, new projects for green hydrogen can, when they establish water desalination plants, they can increase the capacity of their water supply to benefit local communities, and thus adding more benefit to the surrounding region as a social responsibility. And to put this within the national context, Jordan has been moving forward within this sector. It has signed, the Jordanian Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has signed 14 agreements with investors for assessing the feasibility of green hydrogen. 2 of these are with local companies and the rest are with foreign investors. And also work is being done on the green hydrogen strategy. The regulatory framework for the market is currently being developed, and also mapping the required infrastructure, whether it's in a common use infrastructure or these other kind of details are being mapped out. And there are some production goals that have been tentatively set, including 0.6 million metric tons per annum by 2030, increasing to 1.5 by 2040, and eventually 3.5 by 2050. And also, to put this within an international context, why is the drive behind green hydrogen gaining track, or why is it important and relevant? As has been mentioned, 2024 has been the warmest year on record, and it caps almost a decade of unprecedented heat globally. And this shows the role that Power-to-X and green hydrogen can play in decarbonizing sectors that are hard to abate, especially considering the sectors that are hard to electrify or impossible to electrify. And also, it's important to note that although green hydrogen seems not to be price competitive with other kind of fossil fuels or fuels, but this is expected to change as the technology matures in the upcoming decades, and as the fossil fuel, the costs and prices of fossil fuels become higher in the upcoming period. As you can see in this graph, green hydrogen is expected to have to become more cost competitive around 2030 and in the decades to come. So looking at these market changes and technology developments, young people have an important role to play. Of course, young people should stay up to date with these shifts in the energy market. They should invest their time and energy in developing their skills and staying up to date with all these updates. And this will help them not only contribute to national and international energy goals and numerous other national benefits, as we mentioned, economically and other aspects, but also this will be a good opportunity. This will provide them with good opportunities on a professional and personal level within the energy market. And that's it from my side. Thank you for listening, and looking forward to receive any questions about the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Bandari. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Bandari, for your comprehensive perspective on Jordan. So this concludes our second panel. As we have taken our time and gone over the schedule, I propose that we move on to the final panel while you, dear speakers here, address some questions directly on the dedicated box.